Hi everyone, my name is Michael and I'm 20 years old, and 6 months ago I left college so I could date my teacher. Since high school, I've been very popular among my peers. I'm not bragging, but just so you know how popular, I once dated 3 girls at the same time. 2 of them even knew about the others, but still wanted to date me. In college, everything was the same. Not with these girls, but I got a lot of female attention in general. Again, I'm not bragging, I just want you to understand what spoiled me. Over time, I got bored with girls my own age and how they seemed to have the same troubles and worries every time. But then, right when I had almost given in to my boredom, she came along. A new AP calculus teacher. I was very interested in Miss Clark, or should I say Eloise, right away. I was fascinated by her low voice. She was a 32-year-old woman with a lot of life experience. The age difference wasn't a problem for me. On the contrary, it made Eloise seem much hotter. Plus, she was single. So she had everything that I was missing. Now, I don't like to wait long before making the first move, so a couple of days later, I brought her flowers. Well, I tried to bring them. After she was done with work, I walked with her all the way to her house, but she wouldn't accept them. Then, of course, I got upset, but I at least found out where she lived. Over the next week, every single morning, I would leave little bouquets of flowers on her porch, and after that, I would make sure our paths crossed throughout the day and try to get her to talk to me. But she still ignored me. It turned out that the reason she ignored me was that I wasn't her only admirer. She had more than a few. And it's not that surprising. It's hard to walk past a woman like Eloise knowing that she's single. But the competition didn't scare me, so I continued trying to win her heart. I brought her flowers, mostly at night, and on one of those nights, something incredible happened. As soon as I put another bouquet on the porch, Eloise opened the door, and after a short pause, she invited me in with a finger gesture. I was both surprised and worried because she had barely initiated anything before. Why was she suddenly so flirty? I noticed an almost empty bottle of wine in her room. Judging by her behavior, she had probably just finished drinking it. Eloise had nothing but a robe on. How do I know this? Well, as soon as I tried to talk to her, she threw off her robe and started kissing me. I barely had time to get myself together. Just so you know, I'm no sucker. I just liked her way too much to start a relationship this way. So, I stopped her. Yes, I stopped a hot woman from kissing me. Okay, maybe I am a bit of a sucker, but listen, when she came to her senses, we finally talked. It turned out that this performance was because of her frustration with men. According to her, all of her boyfriends wanted only one thing from her. Well, everyone except me, apparently. After our conversation, she wanted to be alone. She kissed me goodbye on the cheek. At that moment, I felt myself getting closer to her heart. To earn some money, I found a job at my dad's construction firm and started combining work with college. It was difficult, but I tried to impress Eloise in a more elegant way. After I got my first paycheck, I bought her more gifts, and when she realized that I wasn't backing down, she gave up. One day she invited me to her house, and after we had coffee, she finally admitted that she also liked me. The only thing she was worried about was the college administration. It was obvious how they would react to a teacher having a romantic relationship with a student, so we agreed to meet secretly. Usually it was her house and late at night. Unfortunately, it never got any further than passionate kissing, but you know what? After a few months of these meetings, I realized that Eloise wasn't just a fling. I wanted to be with her for real. This is the first girl, or rather woman, who I felt really good with. Unfortunately, Eloise herself still didn't take me very seriously. It was as if she was waiting for someone else. And I didn't know what I needed to do to finally prove to her the seriousness of my intentions and finally start dating her openly. But then it dawned on me. Why date if I can marry her right away? At that time, I was completely sure of my feelings, so I just started saving money for an engagement ring. The ring I bought wasn't the most expensive or the coolest, I'm no millionaire, but proposing the right way was more important to me anyway. I wanted it to be so big, so I went to her right in middle of her class. With this gesture, I wanted to show her that the college administration was nothing compared to my love for her. I was wearing a suit, holding flowers, and a ring. So once she and everyone present noticed me, I started my speech. I think it went well. It seemed like any girl would have said yes afterward. But something happened that I, for some reason, didn't really expect. When I got down on my knee in front of her, she got scared and just walked away from me. I went to her and knelt down again, but she ran away from me again. I was in shock, so I just repeated this procedure a few more times, but she still ran away from me. You can probably imagine how miserable I was to watch. I wasn't going to try to figure things out in a room full of students. After Eloise's reaction to my proposal, I literally just ran out of the building. I didn't know how to react. I went home and started telling myself that she didn't like me and maybe she had someone else, you know. And even though she called me many times, I ignored her. The next day when I went to my classes, I, along with Eloise, was immediately called to the dean's office. Couldn't ignore her for that long. Rumors about the proposal incident had already reached the administration, and it turned out that relationships between teachers and students are completely forbidden. It was way worse than I thought. It was only then that I finally realized what Eloise was afraid of. If I admitted that there was something between us, she'd be fired. Thank God I realized this and got it together before the meeting. I reassured them that I was just a fool who had a huge crush on his teacher. I was convincing, and it worked. Of course, they had a conversation with me and asked me not to do it again, but thankfully Eloise's position at the college was saved. I was so eager to make the proposal surprising and unexpected that I forgot to think about the potential consequences. She never really told me what would happen if a teacher dates a student, and for some reason, I thought that no one would be punished. So yeah, I'm an idiot. After talking to the dean, Eloise and I went elsewhere to finally discuss everything properly. She was understandably mad at me, but she still said yes to my proposal. I couldn't believe my luck at that moment. We kissed very passionately. Too bad we were in a college building. She later clarified that we would only get married once I finished college, and until then, our relationship will stay the same. That wasn't okay with me. It was way too long before I was going to graduate. I thought that if we postponed our marriage and kept meeting secretly at her place, well, there was a chance that it wouldn't happen at all. So, once again, I decided to take action. I thought about it for a couple of days, but I still gave up college without telling anyone. Of course, I went to share this happy news with Eloise right away, but she didn't think it was happy news at all. Instead, she insisted that I go back because, without proper education, the chances of finding a prestigious job are much lower. She also said that no matter how much she loved me, she didn't want to live with a future lowlife. We had a big fight. After all, as I saw it, she didn't believe in me. She didn't believe that I could succeed without a college education. And I was upset that I had done this for her, and she didn't even appreciate it. This was our first major fight, and we barely spoke for about 2 weeks. There was no college anymore, but I pretended to go there for my parents, and instead I really went to work. They didn't know anything until I finally got tired of hiding the truth. I was tired of leaving the house in the morning, so I told them about my relationship with Eloise and how I dropped out of college for her. It was predictable that they'd be angry, but I still hoped that they would understand. But they started yelling and demanding that I go back to college. And I couldn't do that because I really wanted to make up with Eloise and start a family with her. This wasn't a good enough excuse for my parents, and they gave me an ultimatum. Either college, a roof over my head, and a job at Dad's firm, or nothing and Eloise. Do I even need to say which one I chose? I gathered my things and went to my loved one. Many people live on their own when they're younger than me, so the fact that I was kicked out at 20 years old wasn't that scary. My greatest fear was that Eloise wouldn't accept me. But her love for me wouldn't let that happen. In the end, she realized that I left college for the sake of our relationship. My dad fired me, so I had to work as a cashier at a small diner. It didn't matter, though, because at that time, the main thing was that Eloise and I were finally together. After a while, we got married. Nothing fancy, just a visit to a justice of the peace, but we were still happy. Unfortunately, it didn't last for very long. A couple of months after we got married, she went from being, and I kinda hate saying it this way, but the hotter, older woman to just an old woman. The magic of our forbidden relationship was gone. Long story short, I fell out of love with her as quickly as I fell in love with her. As you can imagine, after a while, Eloise and I got divorced. I returned to live with my parents, and I'm currently preparing to go back to college. So, that was the story. Finally, let me give you some advice. Think about it 1,000 times before you get married. And after you do, make it 1,001. Bye.